What's up, guys? We are back. Fitness Profit Multiplier, Anthony and Jimmy. So you clicked this episode because you want to install a machine in your business. The T1000 or 8000. I don't know. I haven't watched Terminator in a while. You want to install, well, nowadays you want to install ChatGPT in your gym so it constantly floods people into your gym. How do you build that sales machine? How do you build that sales machine in your gym while you sleep? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. And for those of you who listen to us on a regular basis, you probably already know what we're going to talk about, but it's going to be a sales system. You're always going to fall to the level of your systems. I will repeat that till I'm blue in the face. But Jimmy, let's let him in on the secret. How do we install this sales system into their fitness business to help it explode?
Well, as much as you guys think Arnold's coming to save you because you're John Connor and he's going to install all this AI in your fitness business so you can be a millionaire, that's not the way that it happens. It's not that simple and not that easy. So, you know, all these gurus out there saying that all of a sudden they're AI experts, you should probably just put that stuff in your back pocket and not really listen to that, because there are things that you need to do as a business owner to make sure that this happens. And there's the human to human connection that needs to happen in a belly to belly sales business for our processes and systems around sales. But the first main thing that we want to be focused on is, how are we speaking to that member in our advertising, right? How are we generating those clients? Is first, we talk about that on plenty of other episodes. So there's other episodes where we talk about lead gen, but once we get them into our system, the first step is very simple. And we say this statement all the time. And if you've watched Wolf of Wall Street, you know what this is. You got to pick up the phone and start dialing and have a cadence to that dialing, right? So it's not one of these things that's just like call all the time. There needs to be KPIs involved. There needs to be a cadence and a system involved. And then there's other follow-up sequences that we can use. Anthony actually has a KPI. I think it's 40 or 50 calls a day at his facility. And we don't have the same KPIs. So that's one of the benefits of working with FPM, is that you can get perspectives from both of us. We're both successful gym owners that do things differently. So we can look at what you're working on, break it apart, look under the hood of all of it, and establish what works for you that you like to get you successful. Because there's multiple ways to skin a cat. So we can look under the hood, take all the pieces out, take the engine apart, and then put it back together and supercharge it. And then boom, your business is off to the races. But the first step of a killer sales process is instilling in your staff that dial. They have to get over the call reluctance. They have to get over the sales anxiety over calling. They're going to get hung up on. There's going to be people that say they're not interested. There's going to be all this stuff, right? But 10 no's gets you to a yes, and the yeses are where it counts. So that's step number one.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. I read something that I posted like in my memories on Facebook, and I had said something to the effect, I should probably pull it up so I can read it, but it was something like, behind every no, there was 50,000. Behind every yes, there was 50,000 no's. So you could insert that number however you want. But yeah, that's the general cadence, is you have to make sure that you're dialing and having a system around that dialing. Like Jimmy mentioned, I have KPIs, key performance indicators that my staff knows have to get done. And I was actually talking to her about this yesterday. We were talking about how many calls did you do? Oh, I did, 36 or whatever the number was. It's okay. How many did you book? She said 2. So our KPI is to book 4. So I'm like, you need to, the most important KPI is to book the 4. So I don't care if you do 10 dials and you get the 4. Technically, the 4 is more valuable than just hitting that volume number. So I had to reshift her mind. I'm like, yeah, you have to make 40 calls a day, but you need to book 4 appointments a day. That's more important, booking the 4 appointments, than actually making those other dials. So, and if you hit the 4 before the 40, good, then keep going, push that higher. But you got to hit the 4 completed every day. And it's not easy. It's definitely difficult. But, these are things, you put these things in your business, they get done no matter what. And that's the point. So Jimmy, go ahead. Tell number 2.
All right. So as you go through number 2, and this is the other thing that we want to set up our cadence of nurture sequence for these people, right? And we've talked about this on other episodes. When we're talking about building a killer sales system, we need to be able to nurture our new leads with text messages, emails, voicemail drops, and then the phone calls that we just talked about. So we want to build a cadence of reminder emails, value emails, and things of this nature to make sure that this member knows that they're on our mind and we're thinking of them to get them scheduled for their initial appointment or get them scheduled for their phone call. So we want to have this cadence of emails that go out, and we want to make sure that the first week after they have submitted a form, we're following up with them aggressively, because there are other people following up with them too. They may be looking at other options. There's other things in their lives that are competing with the attention that they need to spend on this goal that they said that they needed help with. So we need a CRM that has a structured email and text message cadence to go along with our call volume. That's number two. Anything to add on number two? Anything to add on number two?
Let it hang. You just kind of let it hang. Yeah.
These guys in New York, they just don't know. They just don't know when I'm done talking, because apparently I have a West Coast accent. So.
So the one thing I will say about automation is it is great to a point. You don't want to be relying on the automation, guys. And at some point, automation might be too much. You might be blasting them with too many emails, too many texts, plus phone calls, plus this, plus that. You know, we found, and again, we're always looking for ways to improve our sales system, but we have found that actually we're doing this level of calling that we're doing, that if we're texting automated text on top of that, it's too much. So you can't rely on automation 100%. You use automation to remind you to do the things that need to be done. And that is picking up the phone and dial. That's the most important thing with automation. So if you don't want a big CRM system to keep track of all this, simple Zapier integration, send you a message, put it on a lead sheet, a Google sheet that you can look at and watch and then track how many times they're getting called. It's that simple. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Don't make it complicated. Go ahead, bud. You could.
I think the important part of the sequence is that as soon as they fill out the form, they are followed up with, right? Is the important component. So it doesn't have to be this long drawn out, like ridiculous, aggressive email and text message sequence if you're calling them on a regular basis, but you may not be able to get to the call within 5 minutes. Ideally you can, but you may not be able to. So the most important part of the follow-up sequence is having an immediate text message that goes out and an immediate email that goes out once they filled out the form, confirming that the form was filled out, right? And then kind of pushing them to that next step. That's the most important part. So if you're going to go bar none, bare minimum, text message and email that goes out once they submit a form on your website or on Facebook, and then they go into your normal call cadence after that. So it doesn't have to be this aggressive AI generated, whatever we're talking about. But that's kind of the bare minimum when we're talking about sequences. So that's it on the sequence. The next step that we need to have in our sales process, step number 3, is going to be your sales training system with your staff, your script, your triage script for your call, and your script for your actual meeting itself. So most of the time in the gym business, it's a 2-step close. So it's fill out the form, discovery call, meeting, close is how it operates. So we need to have a triage script that's available for our call, where we're asking them pointed questions to get them excited about their initial meeting. And then we need to have a script that we go through for our in-person meeting that allows us to uncover more emotional buy-in from that individual. The most important components of these scripts, and we use the word script, but we really mean framework, because if it's not thought of as a framework, you guys just read it off the paper. And we don't need you guys just reading it off the paper. It's not a script like reading it off the paper. It's like you're acting in a drama, right? It's like Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad, right? You don't know he was reading those lines off of a script. He's a great actor, right? And that's how much you need to have it burned into your brain that you can just act it out like that. That's how your staff needs to be trained on it. So it's a framework because you can ad lib a little bit, you can riff a little bit throughout it, just like actors do when things are non-scripted that they do that are become really funny or become iconic. These are things in the sales meeting that you need to be able to do. So having an ironed out script that goes over the principles of sales with the questions that are asked, committing those questions to memory, and then reciting those questions in your meeting in a way that seems like a natural conversation is one of the most important things that's going to make you a killer at sales and build a rock solid sales system at your facility.
So Jimmy's 100% right, especially when we look at the acting side of it when it comes to the framework that you're going to represent. So, little quick story. Arnold Schwarzenegger, that famous line in Terminator, "I'll be back." The famous line, we all know that line. Arnold actually got into an argument with James Cameron over that line because Arnold felt as a machine, the machine would say, "I will be back." Again, we're talking nuance here, but "I will be back" is not as strong as "I'll be back." So while it's important that they're able to ad lib, they have to know when to insert certain tones and inflections while following through. So I'm trying to think of like an example on a sales script. Let's say the sales script says, "Hey, Mrs. Jones, what did you do in the past to try to get in shape?" And the person says, I'm just trying to think of something bad that they would say to take that sentence. Like, "Oh, what stupid thing have you done in the past to try to achieve your goal?" It doesn't come out the same. So you need to be able to practice this stuff like an actor would, and you're essentially putting on a show every time you do a sales meeting. Your goal is to choreograph this whole meeting because the sales call sets up the sales meeting, which sets up them buying, which sets up them coming in and staying long term. And all of this has to be choreographed like a good movie, like a good event, because it all connects. If you charge high ticket prices like we recommend here, right? And that's another voodoo saying that's out there, right? Another crazy thing, high ticket, high ticket. But if you sell a premium product, you have to have the scripting that goes with a premium product. Think about it. I go to a famous steakhouse and I get a burger at a famous steakhouse versus when I go to McDonald's. What's the difference? It's the same burger, arguably, right? Like same kind of burger, same probably calories, whatever. But the whole display of it is different. In fact, there was a restaurant who actually took McDonald's burgers and made them into like an exotic meal at a fancy restaurant. So it's all about the packaging and the choreography that goes into this whole process. Because we're not just talking about the words, we're talking about how you frame the situation. Calling the training sessions as opposed to workouts or classes. If you're charging high ticket, you should never, ever, and I yell at everybody who says this on the sales call, never, ever, ever call it a class, ever. Because when you say the word class, what are you thinking of? Orange Theory, F45, Zumba. That's not you. Session. So all these things are choreographed around that sales environment.
100%. The steakhouse example is something that you should burn into the back of your brain, because when you're trying to differentiate yourself service-wise from somebody else, and you may not know what the differentiator is, the differentiator is the service. The differentiator is the wrapping paper. The differentiator is how that person feels when they spend money at your facility. So you feel very different getting a burger at a steakhouse than getting a burger at a McDonald's, because of what the people at the McDonald's wear, the way the McDonald's looks, that it's wrapped in paper and it's in a paper bag, right? So you don't want your gym to be that, because if your gym is that, the volume that you have to, it's the same issue, right? Yeah, McDonald's works because they have super high volume, but fancy steakhouses work too. They have less volume, but higher premiums. So in the gym business, in the personal training gym business, the fastest way to get to profit is having a premium feel to your facility based on the service, because your profitability is higher, because you can charge more per person, because there's only a certain finite amount of people that are interested in fitness in your local area. So anyway, we're getting off path a little bit with sales, But those are the main things that we want to talk about sales wise, right? It's pick up the phone and start dialing. Have a automated follow-up sequence that's part of your structure. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but having something that's involved, okay? And then your sales scripts and frameworks need to be so dialed in that it's like you're acting in a sitcom and you're never missing a line. And you are riffing as you go and making it conversational and emotional with that client. That gives them more buy-in and allows them to actually participate in your premium service at your gym, the steakhouse.
And guys, you know what to do. Hit that follow button, subscribe, and Fitness Profit Multiplier. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.